Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to another build guide. My name is Rise, and Merry Christmas to those of you who celebrate it. So this is going to be a DPS Fighter Vanguard tank build. So basically a tank that can still hold aggro but with a focus on DPS. And this build is going to be for LOM levels or lower. You definitely don't want to get into Tom because you have nowhere near the hit points needed for Tom. But let's get right into the build. So let's start off with character gear. We're using Sentinel of the Stars Helm, Ebonized Chainmail, Templar of the Twilight Spracers, and these three pieces can be found from MEs, WEs, or FEs. We're using this for the extra AP gain, we're using this for the extra power, and we are using this for the extra encounter damage. Heals of Fury is still going to be best in slot. This comes from one of the Barovia hunts. Let's skip this for now. And let's move on to the ring. So, you've probably noticed a pattern by now. We are using gear that gives you an extra percentage of damage. So the Ring of the Shadow Stalker is a very good piece. And I like the Striking Ring of the Master because it gives you 3% more melee damage. If you don't want to buy one from the auction house, you can use a +5 ring if you can get that. Or you can use a 3% melee damage ring. I believe there is a Ebonized ring just like this one, except the stats are a little different and it says your melee powers do 3% more damage. Of course you can use that one instead. The shirt we're using because 3% more damage, and the pants we're using because it offers a really high defense. It offers 4,000 defense as opposed to some of the other pants that you get which will offer maybe half of that. So that's why we're using the pants, not for the equip bonus, but because for the stat. As far as weapons go, Alabaster is going to be the best for mobs, so we're going to be using that. So I just carried the weapons over from a DPS build, which is why we're increasing the damage done by Heavy Slash by 10%. If you really wanted to focus on tanking, I would recommend either Cleave or Tide of the Iron. And for the shield, you definitely want the modification to be Power and 10% crit severity. And in all the offense slots, I'm using Radiant enchantments for the power, and in defense slots I'm using a mix of Brutal enchantments which give you max hit points in defense. So another Brutal, and I have a Radiant in here. So the stats that you want to aim for are going to be 68,000. Let me change one thing, and we should be a little closer. So the change I made was going to be using Slime instead of the other companion, but anyways we'll get into that later. You want 68,000 at least armor penetration, critical strike. Accuracy, you want combat advantage to be around 108,000, because fighters do get about a 10% buff depending on stamina. So other classes will need 118,000 for Lair of the Mad Mage, but because we're a fighter we can have 10,000 less. As far as the artifacts, we're going to be using the Storyteller set, and I just have this one in the primary for the extra AP gain. I hear that, I'm not sure if it's a Flayed or the Darkened Storyteller that's bugged and doing tons of damage. I haven't tested that out yet, but that would be a really good alternative to this one. The neck, belt, and artifact set I'm using might be a little confusing to you guys. So the bonus is completely useless to us because we're a tank. But it does offer quite a bit of combat advantage, which is why we're using it. If you're able to equip the Boule Pup and get the combat advantage a little higher than I have now, you would be able to use the Baphomet set, you would be able to use the Mad Mage set, so it would open up a lot more options. But because we are using Zuna, and our combat advantage is a little low, that's why we're using this set right here. In mod 18, this is just an aside, but in mod 18 I think this set might be one of the best options for DPS, but let's get back on topic. The second benefit of their Crobriand set is going to be the +5 constitution that it offers. So as you can see, constitution equals AP gain, and we're going to have a few pieces that help us with that. So the Trobriand set, this right here will help with AP, and so will this. And this as well a little. But anyways, we are just going to be using the music box to complete the set, because it offers power, armor penetration, and combat advantage, which are all very good stats. And as far as ability scores go, we will first put everything into strength, because that is a physical damage boost, and second is going to be constitution. Because we're a tank, we definitely need the hit points, and as well as AP gain. Okay, so now let's move on to appearance. Just kidding, guys. Let's move on to powers. So feats, we're going to be using shield thrower, cleaving bowl, combat balance, sharpen senses, and shake it off. So this is going to be very good for holding aggro on a boss, because you can use it more often. Cleaving bowl, I think this means that it makes it an AoE, but I'm not too sure. But it's still going to be better than this one. Combat balance, basically you take less damage when you're not blocking. Sharpened senses, less combat advantage as opposed to this one. And this is a super long cooldown, that's why we're not using it. And shake it off, because this one right here you have to be digging in forever like this for the bonus to work. And this is just a super long time to be digging in combat. So that's why we are using this. So what you do is when you anticipate a hit, you dig in, and right after the hit you let go, and then I think you do 600 magnitude damage when you're at full stamina. Where is it? Yeah, so 300 right here, and yeah, it's increased to 600. As far as class features go, we're going to be using combat superiority for extra at-will damage, and we're going to be using a ferocious reaction to do an extra 25 magnitude of damage each time a hit is deflected. And that's also why we're using Briar Twine, so you'll always be able to take advantage of that. An alternative is going to be this run right here. In single target fights, this is going to be a really good option if you cannot hold aggro. I personally have no trouble doing that, so that's why this is not selected. And as far as encounter powers go, this is going to be my single target rotation. Bull charge, shield throw, anvil. You just use it as soon as encounters are cooled down. For AoE, we're using shield throw and line breaker. And there's really no big secret to this, you just use encounters as soon as a cooldown is up. Okay, let's move on to boons. So of course we're going to be picking power boons, we're going to be picking HP boons. I picked Marathon Runner for the extra run speed. And defense, because our defense is a little low. Combat advantage, of course. And companion influence, it'll give you 10% companion influence, so basically more stats. For the tier 5, we have stamina regen because we're going to be taking a lot of hits, and also AP gain to go with the theme. For the master boon, I don't think there's really any right or wrong choice. I just have this one because it mirrors all incoming damage back to the encounter. At least there's a chance of doing that. For guild boons, of course, we're going to be using power for the extra damage. We're going to be using hit points so that we can take more hits. These two really don't matter at all in a dungeon. I guess once in a while you'll be up on your mount, so I guess you might as well pick this. If your guild has this one, it would also be a really awesome one. So next up on the list is going to be companions, and this is where it starts getting a little tricky. Closet is a very good option because first of all it gives you defense, but also it gives you power, and I'm not sure what the last one is, I believe it's accuracy. So as a augment, this one is a really good option. Polar Bear Pup is a good option, and the best option really would be Boule, but I really don't think it would be a good idea to spend that much on a companion when we really don't always need the extra combat advantage. So this would be a really good budget option. However, if you're wanting to go all out, I would highly recommend the Zuna. Zuna does tons of damage, especially for a tank. Even on my DPS build, I've done more damage with Zuna equipped than just an augment, and this is only in LOM. Tom is going to be a different story because you need caps. But anyways, Zuna, if you can afford it, of course spawning's right here. And the gear that I have picked is actually so I'll have all my stats capped for Tom. Well, really for defense I just need to put on the 4K defense companion instead of Alluring Insight. But that's how I picked my companion gear. The Ivy Grown Grimoire, the companion, there's actually a better, if this will load, there's actually a better epic version of this, which is going to be this one right here. It'll give you one extra offensive slot. We're using this one for the accuracy, and we're using this one for the combat advantage. You can really use any combination of equipment gear that gives you 12k combat advantage, 12k accuracy, and a little more combat advantage as well as armor penetration. So you don't have to have these specific pieces, but you just need to have these sort of stats in order to DPS. But like I said, Quasi is a really good option, but Zuna is going to be a better option. And as far as the 6 slots right here, I'm using Potent Precision for the little bit extra crit severity. BB Deep Crow's Presence, you could substitute this with the, I believe it's called the Tame Velociraptor, but that one is going to be a little more expensive. Slime's Insight for the extra defense. Alluring Insight for incoming heal as well as power. Minstrel's Discipline for power. And Baby Owlbear's Presence. On my DPS build, on my DPS Dreadnought build that is, I went more in depth on this, but basically you're doing anywhere from 2 to 8%. On the safe side, let's say it's just 3% more damage. This is going to be a very good alternative to the Alpha Compy. So guys, last up on the list is going to be mounts. So keep in mind this is a DPS tank, that's why we're slotting power everywhere. So all of these are going to be dominance, which gives you power and companion influence, except for 3 of them. So the 3 are all going to be Enlightened Insignia Fortitude, which gives you maximum hit points and defense. If you guys feel that you are very, very squishy, I would definitely recommend upgrading, or not really upgrading, but replacing some of the dominance with a Fortitude. And it isn't only Fortitude that gives maximum hit points. I'm not sure the other ones, but the other ones I think they give glory gain or gold gain, so those won't be quite as good, but they're still very viable options if your defense isn't capped. And as far as insignia bonuses go, I really don't think any 5 are going to make or break your build. There is one particular one that gives your companion 5% more damage. I believe it's a Winter Sled. Yeah, so the Warlord's Encouragement. I think this would be a really good option if you had the insignias to equip. I just don't have the insignias to equip, so that's why I don't have that. But some I would recommend is going to be Gladiator's Guile for stamina regen and movement speed, and Combatant's Maneuver. So basically you gain a little more combat advantage damage when you control an enemy. So basically Shield Slam right here is a control. So what you do is you use Shield Slam, and then you use Line Breaker and Bull Charge, and as long as you're hitting them from a combat advantage standpoint, you're going to be gaining 2500 combat advantage damage, whatever that means. So guys, that's going to be the build. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please don't hesitate to leave it in the comment section below. Thank you so much for your support. I'll see you next video, guys. Have a great evening, and Merry Christmas.